do you feel like you're ready? Because a lot of them aren't. And even if they're passing all the tests, they're just not mentally ready there. I've had several athletes who passed all your tests, who passed all my tests, and they're ready, but they're mentally not there. And kind of like the way Derrick Rose felt, right? He passed all the tests, but he felt like he wasn't ready. And that's how they feel. And then finally come to me at 12 months or 15 months and they say, hey, doc, I'm ready now. And you got to give them that time too. This is psychological as well. So
what are your philosophies when it comes to the return to sport process? Like, I know you being an orthopedic surgeon, like how do you communicate with the PTs and maybe even your college athletes, like how you communicate with their athletic trainers?
Yeah. So the tricky thing is actually the college athletes, because a lot of times you don't have a good communication setup with their athletic trainers. Anyone in the area, a lot of times you've met the athletic trainers or you know them, so it's a little bit easier. I have athletic trainers that I know at some of the local JCs or colleges that, we're on a texting basis. So that's not a problem. But for the kids that are out of state who come get their surgery done and they go back to their university, that's really tricky because I'm really communicating through the athlete. A lot of times I'll even tell the athletes that here's my email, have them reach out. Well, oftentimes they won't reach out. So they're kind of doing whatever their doctor does over there. But what I do is I find for return to sport, like you said, there's no timeline. Some kids, it'll be 9 months. Some kids, it'll be 12. Some kids, it'll be 15 or 18. It just depends on what they're doing. I will never, ever, no matter what, let someone go before 9 months. That's just the way I do it. That's the bare minimum. Now, besides that, what I do is I talk to the therapist. We have our objective measures. We don't know how good they really are, right? But we have all of our hop testing, our functional testing. I have them do all that. I have them do strength testing. They send me the results at 6 months and at 9 months and at 12 months, kind of depending on how long the athlete's with me. I evaluate that. And if the athlete's passed everything, I had them do a single leg squat in front of me in my clinic. If they're not able to do a single leg squat without falling over or their leg shaking or their femur going in and, femoral adduction and internal rotation, all that, they're not going to be cleared no matter what. If they can do that, then I usually contact the therapist as well. I want to know if they have any concerns. And it's like a joint decision. A lot of times the therapist messages me, they say, hey, I think they're cleared. Let me know what you think. We talk about it as a team. We want to make sure we're doing what's best because, you spend an hour a lot of times with these athletes while I'm there with 15 minutes. So you have a lot of intel that's going to tell me you maybe saw them do a couple of their things, or maybe their landing mechanics. And you were like, hey, they look great on their single leg squat. They look great when we're doing all our hop testing, but when they're landing, they do not look good. I do not have, comfort in the way they're landing. Okay, well, I don't know that information. So if I don't ask you, how am I going to clear them well? And maybe you didn't see something that I saw in my physical exam. So if we don't talk to each other and take the time to just send that one-liner here or there, we're doing the athlete a disservice. So it's just like a group thing. We just do this together. And what I do is I ask the athlete. I always ask them, I go, do you feel like you're ready? Because a lot of them aren't. And even if they're passing all the tests, they're just not mentally ready there. I've had several athletes who passed all your tests, who passed all my tests, and they're ready, but they're mentally not there. And kind of like the way Derrick Rose felt, right? He passed all the tests, but he felt like he wasn't ready. And that's how they feel. And then finally come to me at 12 months or 15 months and they say, hey, doc, I'm ready now. And you got to give them that time too. This is psychological as well. So it's a group thing. It's parents, coaches, trainers, it's therapists, it's doctors, it's the athlete. It's all of us.
Yeah, I think you just said that absolutely perfectly. That's exactly my philosophy when it comes to return to sport process. It's got, again, not to keep saying the same thing over and over again, but it's got to be individualized. It's got to be a team effort. There's got to be both mental and physical testing. And I think a lot of people still neglect the mental side of it, which is kind of reason why, a big part of this, the other half of this podcast is the fact that I have athletes on this show sharing their stories and all that kind of stuff, because I think that it does play a massive role into the return to sport process. Because like you said, a lot of athletes look good, especially these young kids, like they're freaks, they just recover really, really quickly, but you cannot replicate that like in-game speed, contact, all that kind of stuff. And I do everything I can. We have a 40-yard turf space, which I'm really thankful of, because I can hit them a little bit. I can run with them. I can sprint with them. I can cut reactive work, all that kind of stuff. And that does help build that confidence. But at the same time, it's still that game speed, adrenaline, all that kind of stuff, which you
Yeah.
can't really replicate. And I always tell every athlete that I clear is that when you step back on the field or court, whatever it is for the first time, like you can be anxious, you can have butterflies, all that kind of stuff, but you should not be scared. Like if you're
Hmm.
scared, that means you are not physically ready. We should have prepared you well enough at the facility that you should be ready to step back on there. And again, everyone's going to have like that, those butterflies, those jitters, because you've been out of the game for about a year now. So that stuff is natural. And I think, that what you just said is perfect. And I wish more people were understanding the fact that there needs to be really, really good communication, because at the end of the day,
Oh, yeah.
everyone is on the same team. It should not be a competition of like, oh, the surgeon clearing or PT clearing, AT clearing, whatever it is. It's just every person, including the parent, should be on the same team,
Oh, yeah.
communicating, dialoguing, like, oh yeah, I think that they are still missing this, or like if ideally like all 4 or 5 people are given the check mark, and that's obviously the best part, is that everyone's on board with that kid going back, because that
Mhm.
probably means that they are obviously very ready to go. So I definitely really appreciate the fact that you
Yeah.
were able to shed light on that aspect too.
Yeah, and
um,
to be frank, man, I got to tell you, a lot of these parents, a lot of the parents and the coaches and the ATs and the PTs, they've all been pretty phenomenal. The amount of times I can think of that someone has been difficult during this process, I can probably count on one hand.
hmm,
I mean, parents, coaches, athletic trainers, physical therapists, every single group member has been fantastic. The athletes, it's actually a joy to be a part of the whole process. The only thing that I wish I could have that I envy in some of my colleagues who work in these smaller towns throughout the country is, they oftentimes are the team doc also for a local high school. And they go and they watch their Friday night football games and the basketball games. They're involved. And it's so nice when you work in these communities, because you can actually watch that athlete. And if you have any concerns or if there's something off, man, you really start to recognize your work. Is it really working as well as you think? There's nothing, there's a quote I heard once. It was, nothing is more telling, or nothing will give you the truth more than long-term follow-up.
hmm.
So being able to watch them and see how they're doing, and having a local therapist who's going to these games and they're watching them, you really start to see how well your athlete's doing. And I wish I could be a part of that. I wish I could continue to monitor them.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of my favorite parts. And it's tough because as volume goes up and the more ACOs I see, it's
Of
not like I
course.
can connect with every single patient the same way. Personalities, all that kind of stuff matter, but I have really, really strong connection with some of my athletes, and it's awesome because even now they are a year and a half, 2 years out, and they've been playing for a full season now, whatever it is, and I still want to go to their games. I still text them to see how they're doing, like how's school going. I think it's just like you said, it's a fun process to be a part of. It sucks for the athlete to have to go through
Yeah.
it, but to have a good team with a good ortho, good PT, AT, all that kind of stuff around them only helps them through the whole recovery process. And a lot of times, like
Yeah.
I describe it as it can be life changing as far as an ACL
Mhm.
tear goes, and a lot of times it can be for the better. I share my story a lot where my ACL tear literally changed my life because I became a physical therapist because of it. And had I not
Yeah.
torn my ACL, I would probably still be in consulting at this point.
Yeah.
So I definitely wouldn't take it back. And I think that, just like you said, it's a fun process to be a part of. And I definitely enjoy, seeing ACLs. And I think that it's something that I will continue to do for the rest of my career. Thank you for watching today's video. Please feel free to like and subscribe. I have started an ACL Mastermind Group, which is a program designed for physical therapists, physios, strength coaches, students, and athletic trainers who want to learn more about ACL rehab. It currently holds over 600 videos and has over 500 members with new videos added every single month. The videos cover immediate post-op to late stage sports-specific movements and everything in between. Content specifically also includes rehab complications, treatment philosophies, case studies where you can see my real life patients, movement assessments, exercise breakdowns so you understand how to properly teach the exercises. The exercises are also arranged by difficulty level for strengthening exercises, plyometrics, balance, and neuromuscular control. Of course, it also covers late stage for movement exercises from structured all the way to randomized and chaotic to mimic more sports related settings. And lastly, you also learn how to do return to sport testing, which is extremely important. And this what ultimately determines whether or not someone is safe or not safe to return to sports again. There's also questions within the group where you can learn how I engage with patients and their parents of how to answer difficult questions throughout the rehab process, which is inevitable to come up. And lastly, you gain access to a private forum where you can ask questions directly to me and others within the community. We share research articles, we share other equipment and beneficial equipment and things like that
Anything that can come up within the ACL rehab spectrum, that's when you can ask within the private forum. And lastly, you can also download the app where you can gain access in your respective facilities directly on your phones. If you have any interest, please feel free to click the link below, and I appreciate you watching today's video.